Welcome to the Milan No-Till Virtual Field Day, and today we're going to take you on a trip to revive your green thumb, and we will be talking about gardening with those with limited mobilities. Welcome again. My name is Karla Kean, and I'm an extension agent with the UT-TSU Extension Office here in Montgomery County, and today we are at Victoria Gonzalez's garden. Ms. Gonzalez is a Montgomery County Master Gardener and has been for a couple years now. And I would like Victoria to tell us a little bit about some recent health changes that caused her to change her gardening practice.
In 2018, I had an open heart surgery, a quadruple bypass, and that really did change my gardening style. I couldn't do anything that I used to do. I couldn't lift heavy things, I couldn't dig, and I was restricted by temperature. And it affected my strength very much.
So tell us about some things, maybe how you started gardening originally, and then what changes that you have put into place, and then we'll go visit those areas within the garden.
Okay. Well, I started gardening when I was 7 years old. I asked my mother for a small patch of the backyard, and I grew beets, carrots, zinnias, and some beans. And they were original little tiny vegetables. Yeah. So I was way ahead of my time. So I started when I was 7, I think.
Oh, that is awesome. That is awesome. But we look at, so many changes as we age, or, you may have come into a health problem, or had an accident or something that limits your mobility, and it really changes how you garden. And so we want to provide some tips for folks that may be facing those limited abilities. And so, what are some things that you do to avoid fatigue in the garden?
To avoid fatigue in the garden, I usually start very early in the morning when the weather's cooler. I stay hydrated. I drink a lot of water, and I do ask for help when I need it. I just can't lift the heavy bags that I used to, and I can't dig like I used to. So the raised beds seem like an ideal situation for me. I do a lot of stretching before I start in the garden so that I don't hurt myself, it's hard to do because you just want to rush out and start weeding and pulling, and you just can't do that.
Well, you pay for that later.
You sure do, yeah.
Bend a little bit before you get out there in the garden.
Oh yeah, you'll feel it in the morning if you don't.
And drinking a lot of water, that's always important.
Oh, absolutely.
Outdoors, and just for health benefits. My doctor told me 100 ounces of water per day. That's a lot of water.
It is. But you can certainly get it when you're outside working hard in the heat.
That's for sure. That's for sure. And I always wear sunscreen. I don't know about you.
Always
have sunscreen on. Usually if I'm working in the garden, I'll have on a big floppy hat and, try to cover as much skin as possible. So. And
the one mistake I made the other day was not wearing long sleeves when I was pulling poison ivy. Yes. So long sleeves and good shoes usually help.
Yes, that's another thing that is important about working in the garden. I have a bad habit of trying to do everything in flip-flops, but there's just certain things, that you can't do. When you're lifting and bending and doing a lot of heavy work, you really need to wear good sturdy shoes. Long sleeve shirt helps with the poison ivy issues. I wanted to reinforce my statement earlier about using sunscreen in the garden, or when you're outside working at all. I did have a bout of skin cancer last year, which was really scary, and it's no fun to have that removed. And so you need to remember to put sunscreen all over, as mine showed up on my leg. Of all places, it was on my leg, and I never would have noticed it, thought anything about it, until it started changing colors. So remember, when you're in the garden, cover all your bare skin with either clothing or sunscreen. And don't forget your legs. Okay, well, what do you say we move into some of your garden areas and look at some of your individual plants and such?
Harder on me. The little raised beds, I tried different sizes.
Okay.
My landscaper suggested 48 inches high, but I'm only 5 feet tall. So So these are pretty short, but they get a lot of morning sun and then they get afternoon shade. So I thought it would be good for lettuce. And I've pretty much harvested lettuce every day since it's been going. I had radishes before. And now there are just other things that just have shown up, like tomatoes. And tomatoes.
This is something that we recommend, you know, that you set your garden up close to your house and close to water so that it's accessible, and then you're more likely to take care of it, and it does ease, you know, getting into the garden. So I think that is really neat. You can pick what you want for dinner and just take it right in the house.
Yeah, super easy.
Super easy.
Yeah. You know, the original raised beds that I had were too far away from the water source.
Right.
So. When the COVID started, I ran out of dirt. So there's not very much in these beds, but it'll give you an idea of how I started it. I layered, we're trying to do the German Hugo Culture with layers, and there's some volunteers that have come up. There's some peppers and some squash. So we'll just see what happens with those.
Victoria is practicing Hugo Culture. This is a method of layering compostable materials from the ground up, starting with sticks and logs, and then building additional layers of yard or food waste and topping it with topsoil or compost and planting right on top.
It's like a little bit of Inca vine.
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
So tell me about these tomatoes. Oh, the cucumbers.
This is a spaghetti squash that came up out of the compost, so I just put it in there. But yes, these tomatoes are volunteers.
Yes.
I don't know what kind, but they're already tomatoes on there. And I used an old red bud to that, and I'm going to use that to trellis it on because. You know, when the COVID hit and we were quarantined, I really couldn't be running to Lowe's every 5 minutes to get anything. Exactly. I like to repurpose whatever I have in the yard.
I see a lot of ways
to repurpose
items within the garden.
And there are more tomatoes that I found, and there are some marigolds because I always love to do marigolds and tomatoes and borage. I've done that in this bed, but it's kind of big. It kind of took off on me. And since I ran out of dirt, I just used the containers that I had so that I could put my sweet peppers, an Ichiban eggplant, and some other sweet peppers that I got from seeds from the store, peppers that I got at the store, and this pretty little sweet potato vine.
Oh, that is a sweet potato.
Yeah, it's a variegated sweet potato, and it lived in my basement, and I just plopped it in so that it would have a place to live.
When Victoria couldn't get soil, another option would have been creating a soilless mixture using peat moss, compost, and vermiculite.
All right, and we've got several tomato plants
We have 4 different varieties of tomato plants that I know of.
Okay.
I have San Marzano, blush tomatoes, which look like little bullets, micro tom, and I think chocolate cherry and white cherry, and I don't know how many of those I got. And then I have Oregon Spring slicers. And when we were trellising this and trying to tie it up, a big piece fell off. So I just stuck it in, and it's fine.
And it's rooted.
Oh, yeah. And you can see I tried to plant my marigolds like I usually do. And they're getting pretty shaded out because these tomatoes have taken off. I used compost, a rotted compost from the riding stable where I go. It's horse manure and shavings. And so there was a lot of that. I use tomato tone organic fertilizer. I use a little bit of calcium nitrate, and I use a little Epsom salt to help that uptake so I don't get blossom end rot because I've had a problem with that before. Right. And that seemed to work pretty well last year.
Yeah, your mixture is doing very well.
And this is not a cherry tomato, so I don't know what that is there. And jewels of opar. They just kind of ended up. They end up everywhere. So, a bean. And in the spring, the early spring, I had a lot of cilantro or coriander. I had radishes in this bed. I had baby bok choy, and I had beets, and I had. I think mainly had a lot of radishes and a lot of cilantro, and so. I planted the tomatoes afterwards.
Okay, well, tell me a little bit. What do you do with all this excess produce?
Any excess produce that I have, I will give to neighbors. A lot of times with the tomatoes, I love to can, and I will do salsa and I'll do any different types of chutneys, tomato chutney, and I would do that in August usually, and would give those out for Christmas gifts. But this year, because we need to plan a row for the hungry, anything that I get extra here will probably go to Loaves and Fishes downtown, because I'm not able to volunteer. I've been forbidden to go. I'm in a high-risk category, so I can't go out and volunteer like I used to.
But you can still donate.
Oh, if I have excess produce, I will donate any excess produce that I have this year to Loaves and Fishes because of the Plan a Row for the Hungry initiative that you spoke about.
We would like to challenge the folks in Montgomery County to be a part of our 2020 Plant a Row for the Hungry Montgomery campaign. We are encouraging gardeners to plant an extra row of vegetables, produce, or if they have fruits and vegetables, and donate those to the local food banks. And you can refer to the slide for the link on how to sign up and become a part of this program and help support kids that need to have a good, healthy meal during the summertime.
Okay, now let's look at just a few tools that are available for gardeners. I mean, I know I have weak wrist, it seems like, and elbow problems and such, and so these are some ergonomically correct tools that help you get a better grip on your tool and to be able to dig in the garden and use this part of your arm and your muscles here so that you're not stressing the wrist so much, so that it makes it easy. And of course this soil is real easy to dig with, but these are great little tools that I purchased recently.
I like the way they feel.
Do you like the
I like the way they feel. I think these might help a lot.
Oh, okay. And there's other adaptations that you can get for longer tools. We talk about
that wrist brace. I've seen one with a wrist brace.
There's a wrist brace where you can hook your shovels or your hose to and extend that so you can stand up straight while you're gardening without putting strain on your back and your neck and things like that. So these look like they'd be awesome tools. I'm going to try working with them now and see if they help. But I've heard...
I think I want some too now.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
We covered a few ergonomic tools with Victoria, but here are a few more that work well for our master gardeners. With our Montgomery County Master Gardeners, the circle hoe wins hands down. You can see in the pictures here, see the back edge of the hoe cutting through the soil at the back of the weed clump. It just pulls it up root and all so that you can dispose of that properly. The longer ones, the circle hoe is about 4.5 foot long. There's also a small circle hoe that's about 12 to 15 inches long. It has a sharp front edge of the circle that is digging into the soil on the back part of the weed. Again, that just pulls that weed and the roots right out of the ground. Knee pads can also help while kneeling, or a cushion can be used and moved throughout the garden. One of our volunteers has this nifty little tool that acts as a knee pad, as well as, if you flip it over, it is a seat in the garden. So if you need to sit, this would be a comfortable way to either kneel or sit and work in the garden and use those extended tools that we have been talking about.
You've got a lot of repurposed planting areas here, so tell me a little bit
Yes,
about
I do. This is one of my favorites. This was an old black file cabinet, and mint will go everywhere. And this was a great way to keep my mint contained, but keep it high enough so that I could come in and snip easily. I use mint all summer long. I use it, actually it lasts quite a long time. I use it for all sorts of things, for cooking, not just for tea. My favorite use for mint is on a turkey sandwich with a little apricot jam, and it's delicious.
Sounds awesome.
But it's easy to repurpose an old file cabinet. You just put some treated lumber boards on that end, and we punched holes and we drilled holes on the bottom, and that's about been there 5 years, I think.
Okay.
So, and it keeps the mint in control.
Cool. All right, so what have you got growing here in the bucket?
In the bucket, I have some potatoes that sprouted in my pantry, and I guess that happens to everybody. They were the tiny little red gourmet, expensive tomatoes. So I thought, let me see if what I saw at our meetings, if that works. Put the tomatoes in, and I've been layering and layering with lots of dirt. And this is another recycled. I use these a lot. These are tobacco sticks. Jerry's friend had a tobacco farm up a tiny town, and he gave us just tons of them. And I thought, well, if they were used for tobacco sticks, maybe they're bug-proof because they have all the nicotinic acid in it. I don't know. But they're very useful to tie things up with. And I like this tape a lot, too, because it's easy for me.
And that photo degrades, too, over time.
Yes. So it's not too hard to deal with. So, and I've been layering with dirt. They've been blooming, so I think I'll have some potatoes soon. I understand all I have to do is just dump it over and harvest potatoes.
I can't wait to see that.
Yeah, I can't wait to eat them.
Yeah, I've got some sweet peas I just harvested that would go really good with your potatoes.
Oh, well, my sweet peas were all up on the railing deck. I planted micro sweet peas, and I planted some in there too, and I would just eat them in the garden. Most of them never made it into the house.
Yeah, that's how mine is too.
Yeah. Jerry doesn't eat them.
I think over the last 2 years, I may have enough peas for a whole meal, this year.
Oh, man.
So I just didn't plant enough.
I didn't plant
They're so hard
enough.
to get in before the heat gets them.
Yes,
so,
once the heat got them, that was it. But they were fun and tasty.
Victoria does a great job of adapting to her needs, but everyone's limitations are going to be different. Depending on the situation, other tips include placing those garden beds near the house for quick accessibility. You also want to place your garden beds near the driveway to decrease the distance needed to carry those supplies, plants and other supplies to the garden. Keep your garden tools and containers within easy reach. Build tool shed doors at least 48 inches wide to accommodate wheelchairs. And always you want to build your garden beds close to a water source. And an easy way to water small containers is to just fill a trash can or a big plastic container with water, and then use small containers or watering cans that can be filled and water those garden plants in containers. Provide plenty of seating in the garden so that you can take rest as needed. But the raised beds are one of the most common options to grow residential food and flower crops.
Okay, we also know that for gardeners with limited mobility, container gardening is an excellent way to be able to continue gardening and, do that thing that you love the most is to garden. So tell us a little bit about what you've got out here on your deck.
Well, when I first was recovering from my heart surgery, the only thing I could do were these little containers. And I just like to plant parsley, little, basil. I use a lot of this in cooking. I've got a little micro tomato there, little purple basil there. And this is supposed to be a micro tomato, but it's not. It's some other kind of tomato.
I'm very interested in that.
Yes, this one.
This big.
They're teeny tiny. They're only supposed to get not more than 6 inches tall. But unfortunately, some of the reviews said they were not the tastiest. But I thought it was fun just for a novelty. Yeah. And I also keep some mint up here on the back too, just so I can run in quickly if it's raining. But so you can see, I have plenty of mint out in the yard. I don't really need to keep it up here.
Right.
But I do go through a lot of parsley and basil when in my cooking.
Yeah, and I love the way that your containers fit right on the deck rail.
Deck rail.
That way they're sturdy. They're there. Easily reachable.
Very easy to water. You
could sit down and garden, or you could stand up and do this. Either way.
Right. Well, Jerry will bring me a big bucket of water, and I have a little cup, and I can water at my speed. I can't pick up a big, heavy watering can anymore, and I can't drag the hose around either. So
right.
So this makes it very, very easy.
Yeah. And your soil mix, when we're talking about container gardenings, you want to use a good potting mix, a seed starter type mix, and you can even buy those that have the water holding polymers in there.
I have
and that helps, because your container gardens, you've got to water at least
I water,
3 times a day,
I water, but that's actually my rehabilitation.
Yes.
It's good exercise for me. It's my meditation. These basil and parsley mix came from Clarksville, city of Clarksville. What was it? A green initiative?
The Parks and Recreation handed out some flower seeds.
And those
over
came
the last
from
couple
there.
of years. So,
But I use a good potting mix, and then I use seed starting mix, about an inch of that on top, and that's how I started all of this. So these are Thai peppers, and I don't know if they'll do well in a bucket. We'll just see.
Yeah.
But
gardening's always an experiment. You just never know.
I don't mind.
Sometimes you'll fail, sometimes you'll succeed. So,
Oh, yes.
But it looks like you are succeeding with your garden.
Yeah. I've been at it a while.
Well, look here. Your gardening does not just end with vegetables. Look at all these beautiful plants that you've got outside. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, these are plants that usually live indoors in the wintertime. I have them in that east window. And in the summertime, they live outside in the summer. I do a lot of sharing. This is where I'm starting some spirea and starting little pots. And they're things that I give away. I don't, as gifts, and I can reach very easily here. It's easy to take care of, and I try not to get anything more than what's on this shelf, because then that means I've overdone it. I have too much to take care of.
Yeah.
But I call it my little plant nursery. They just stay outside all summer, and they stay inside all winter. And Jerry has to bring them in and out on the rainy days. But it seems to work pretty well here. They get a lot of morning sun, and they get nice shade in the afternoon. So it's a good place to keep houseplants.
Yeah, seems like the perfect place for it there.
I'd had the original raised beds made with fence posts, and they were treated lumber, but they did not last very long at all. They may have lasted 5 years, 6 years, and they're falling apart. And so I would probably do a different type of lumber for these raised beds. I wish I had chosen cedar or cypress or something a little more natural. The landscaper that helped me build them chose this treated lumber, and I'm a little skeptical about it, but we'll just see what happens. I can always use those next year for flowers and plants, and get some cedar ones built next year. I think that's probably what I'll do next year. What I would do differently is make sure that I have a better spot for my compost, and make sure that I have enough dirt. I don't know what else I could do differently. What could I do differently?
The height of the beds.
Oh, the height of the beds, yeah.
Noticed, the height of the beds makes a big difference.
Those are 22 inches. Those are 22 inches high, and that actually seems like an okay height. It could have been a board less. It could have been. I would have been fine with an 18-inch high bed. I think those are a little too high. And so those, since they are out of the treated lumber, will probably end up I'll use them for bulbs and for flowers, cut flowers and things. And really just an 18 inches is optimal for me, because I'm very short. I'm only 5 feet tall. Now for someone taller, the 22-inch bed might work better. And it depends on whether you're in what your mobility limits are.
Yeah, you have to look at every gardener a little bit individually, and like if they are in a wheelchair,
if you're in a wheelchair,
those beds might be a little bit higher and allow access for somebody to pull in under the bed and still be able to reach. So, with the UT Extension Office, through our Consumer Residential Horticulture Program, they have a great website that's got several good publications on building raised beds and how to plant your vegetable garden, harvesting, canning, and things like that. So if anybody's interested, just check out that UT Extension site, and we'll provide the information for you. I want to thank everybody for joining us today for our virtual garden tour, and I hope everybody learned something from this. And I want to especially thank Miss Victoria for allowing us to come to her garden
It is
and sharing
my
your
pleasure.
experience and your story with us. I really appreciate that.
It was my pleasure.
All right, thank you.